Australian Commandos, day 2 of selection. Let's go.
Over a set distance. It's a long endurance event that puts candidates under stress.
At a distance of 20 kilometres, the course will allow plenty of time to think about the pain.
You know, on these long humps, usually you're getting geared up with a bunch of fluids, right? So you get hydrated. Tell you from personal experience, I was one of these at Camp Lejeune. I had to take a leak, and you have to unbutton your trousers and take care of business. I'm sure these guys have had to do it.
With a 30-kilogram load fixed to their shoulders and a 4-kilo rifle in hand, candidates must complete the individual endurance march within the allocated time frame. Failure to do so will mean immediate removal from the Commando selection course. Injuries are common throughout the 20-kilometre endurance march, and it isn't long before the first casualties appear.
Medic! Medic!
A combination of dehydration and excessive sweating results in a violent seizure of muscle tissue.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning. So you're gearing up the night before, drinking all the water, hopefully, right? If you don't do it the night before, that day you're done. That morning, it's not enough water can help you. And then some guys just don't hold the water as well, so they tend to dehydrate faster. I don't know what it is, but I remember seeing guys fall out of humps like this. You get muscle spasms. You guys ever see that? Put that in the comments.
Causing an onset of excruciating muscular cramps.
Ow.
In sweating, the body loses large amounts of water and salt, resulting throughout this activity in extremely painful muscle contractions in the calves, thighs and feet. Deprived of stimulation and thoroughly exhausted, it's a lonely journey for candidates. With little to occupy their minds, anxiety levels rise, and for some, the likelihood of collapse increases.
Now, 20 kilometers is not that far, but the part you may miss here, I may miss, we don't know what came before that. Were they getting worked over and PT, or they get worked over, get smoked? That's where these things really don't show you everything, where they're already spent. And then they're doing these long humps. And those night humps is very easy because typically, like in this case, there was no moon. They are on a road, which makes it better. You're not going to fall in the hole. But I remember piles of guys twisting their ankle. Dehydration's a big one. And like I mentioned before, if you don't figure that out, especially I'm sure in Australia, you're done. And I've had those cramps in my thighs that are excruciating. Typically, I had them after hump at night. I'd wake up and they'd be, Charlie, were so bad I could barely move.
The selection course has to be challenging because in order to bring out the attributes that we're looking for, individuals must be tested. If we were just training, then we don't see those qualities come out. If individuals are getting 8 hours of sleep every night, then we don't get right down to the core of who those people are. We find very quickly when guys have had 1 or less hours of sleep in a night, you quickly see who people really are.
What he just said there was perfect. Sums everything up, right? Now, I was not an Aussie commando or U.S. commando, but I was in a pile of infantry training like this where you're getting no sleep. And you Marines can attest to this. If you went to MCT or SOI, you just don't get any sleep. And so that catches up to you. Fortunately, you're a young stud. You can make it go. But some guys just don't do well with an hour of sleep or two, you know, when the body starts falling apart. The big thing is your muscles are so fatigued that all the banging and destruction takes place on the joints. That's when you really feel it if you stop, swelling up feet, knees, ankles, etc. Oh.
316.
Lack of sleep, loss of fluids, and excessive overworking of the body results in a drop in blood pressure. The lack of oxygenated blood in the brain triggers a weakening of the limbs, and fainting is a potential consequence. A sudden collapse occurred as he crossed the finish line. While his resolve is not in question,
good on him.
He failed the test by 1 minute and is removed from the course.
Oh. I have to say, I do like the way you Australians do it. You make it or you don't, and you're out. I don't know how much SF selection they do here, but let's, for example, buds, here being the U.S. You get a couple tries. At this selection, for the Commandos, one try, you're gone if you don't make it. I think that makes sense. Now, there's some guys that need to be recycled, probably, but this is pretty tough.
Having successfully completed the Special Forces entry test, a small group of military candidates are now undertaking one of the toughest courses in the Australian Defence Force, and the demands of highly discerning instructors. After 4 initial days of intense activity and challenges, the grueling Commando selection course has reached its most difficult period: demarcation.
The pool always gets a lot of guys, just can't, they're not comfortable in the water. Especially these kind of exercise. Some guys really sink, right? And their treading water's tough. Some guys tend to float more and they got it easy, but there's nothing easy about treading water in the same spot, in a line, with a rifle in particular. Now you throw in utilities on top of that. Let's just say you throw in boots, your BDUs, and a helmet, and a rifle. Then you got something to think about. I'm sure that's coming next.
The hardest part of the selection course is the last 72 hours of the course, where candidates are put through the ringer. They're given a series of challenges, often with little food, little sleep, and they're required to give their all.
Only having water for sort of 3.5 days, and to see.
Some guys have not gone without food for a day before in their life. They can't miss a meal every 3 or 4 hours. You get these high-end bodybuilders or athletes, they're used to eating all the time. You get into this and don't eat for 3 days, and that old blood sugar thing where they feel tired. It's part of it. So I would suspect most of them aren't accustomed to this. And some fare better than others. I don't know why. Genetic. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments. Genetic, or are they just tougher, or both?
How mentally you get through.
After an intense 24 hours of physically exhausting training, it is now day 2 of the demarcation process.
Any questions?
Predictably, the strain has begun to show.
Now, 31 hours. I don't know if I've ever probably been about that, maybe less. I don't know. Usually don't know what day it is then. That's tough. I suspect these guys are totally wiped out. And everything's foggy. Your vision gets goofy, especially if they're hot. The pool's probably a nice break to cool off. But the amount of exertion it takes to do the pool, tread water. I would tell you, if you haven't treaded water for, say, 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, it's a great workout. Try that sometime.
We've told them that they've only got a couple minutes of the session left. You can start to see them physically relax. So now we'll get them out of the water and tell them to start getting ready for the next activity. Then all of a sudden we'll change their mind and tell them to get back into the water. This is just a simple psychological test to see who's got resolve and who doesn't.
It's that old thing with your kids. Are you there yet? Are we there yet? These guys are probably like, oh, we're almost done. And they come back. Get back in the pool. Get out now. Get back in the pool. Get out now. And when you're tired, you know how it goes. It's not easy. 31 hours at this point. These guys are spent, but they all look like they're doing a great job. Let's see how many people drop. Before you go ahead, how many people will drop at this stage? Tell me. Put it in the comments.
It's the time on selection that we lose the most candidates. It's at a high intensity. It's survivable, but it's harder than most of the guys would have trained.
2 comments. Holding that rifle out. I'm sure it's 7.5 pounds, probably rubber. That looks easy until you do it. So just take a milk jug and hold it out in front of you like this, right? 5 minutes. Try it. It's amazing how heavy. You figure a milk jug, we don't have a lot, 8-10 pounds in it, right? This thing, it will just wear you out. Take aside the pool, 31 hours. And like he said, they're already physically fit. They're probably not as fit as they thought they were. And the ones that are the most fit probably have an advantage. But the mental part of this, like, I don't know if I want to do this job anymore. Like, if this is the job, and they'll keep saying it gets harder. Now, it's probably different, right? But if this is the job, why would I want to do this? Going back to the regular Australian Army, right? Let's keep going.
These men are hurting. They've been operating close to their limits for the first 4 days of the selection course.
Yeah, you see that?
They've done more than 8 hours of physical assessments. They now find themselves treading water in a grueling physical assessment. This session will test their resolve while minimising the wear and tear on their aching bodies.
See, that's smart. It's the same way when you guys have all watched Bud's training, right? Towards the latter portion, they have to slow down. They keep you moving, but they can't keep beating on you because most guys will continue to go that are really this stage. And they'll break down, and they'll be, you know, in light duty for a period. I'm sure they give maybe a week off after this, or at least a minimum of duty after this, some sort of light duty for a week to get the joints back and everything. Otherwise, the body just falls apart because at this stage, they're not recovering at night. They're not sleeping, even for young studs.
There's a number of pool sessions or swim sessions that are designed to see if guys have what it takes to do something harder, but also outside their comfort zone. So in a different environment, when they're completely fatigued, will their anxiety levels be very high in the pool?
Now, what do you guys think? Can you retrain somebody who's scared of water? You know, that's scared of claustrophobic, right? They're underwater. They got to hold their breath. You know, they're not going to die, but some people are just naturally scared of water. I've said this before, and I've never believed it till I saw people that are just petrified being underwater, a dark mask, you know, losing breath underwater. Put that in the comments if you've seen that. And if you have, you truly know when someone's scared. You can see it so clear, and these instructors probably see it. Hopefully they do help. I'm not sure you can get over it.
We use water drills during selection for 2 reasons. One is to get guys comfortable operating in the water environment. We are an amphibious unit. The second one is the heat. If it's too hot, we can't train the guys to their full extent, so we can throw them in the pool.
The candidates are released, but not for rest. They're now required to collect their gear and move off to the next task.
So during the selection process, we are looking for individuals that will display all of those attributes, and it's only those individuals displaying all of those attributes that we then know or we expect will be able to learn all the skills that we will give them during the next.
Yeah, so don't waste a bunch of money on a guy that's going to be weak, right? So that's the point of this. We'll call it initial selection, whatever you want to call it. It's selection, but it's the weed out the weak ones phase. Before you spend a fortune of money and time. So it's like they do their hell week, I'd say, first, where buds, you know, you've seen it. They do it after a month or so. Correct me if I'm wrong, experts. They do it differently. And so that's what I appreciate about this one. Just get it out of the way. Helps the candidate, helps the program, it helps the country to get the best guys for this.
So we're looking for someone who has that base level attributes, and then we've broken them down.
The main group of candidates have been broken into smaller groups so the instructors can begin to see how they work together as a small team. These candidates have been awake for 48 hours.
Wow, that's a long time, and I'd say this. You know, the moving's your best friend. When you have to sit like they just were in a Indian-style position on your rump, boy, everything starts tightening up. The cramps, your feet start swelling.
They're being trained and assessed on their ability to learn a foreign weapon. It's expected that a commando, whether he's working overseas with other forces, that he can quickly adapt and learn new weapon systems. This is just another test to see who's got that adaptability.
The physicality of the men has already been established as sufficient enough to enter the course. It'll be further developed.
We just call that bunny hopping. It's not hard by the looks of it, but after 48 hours, I suspect it's pretty damn hard, especially with the rifle like this. You know, it's wet. It's probably very humid from the looks of it. I'm sure they're spent and having to suck down water perpetually.
Last is time 79. Here's your chance.
These men have been given an unusual and challenging task. The scenario is designed to test their ability to solve problems while physically and mentally fatigued. This replicates an operational task.
Now, PTing in gas masks does suck. Usually it'll fog up, especially if it's really humid. We did it before the first Gulf War in mop gear and gas masks and the whole outfit. Looks like they have something similar. You know, there's nothing good about that. Only thing that'd be good about it is they're in the winter. It looks like they're not. They're in the hot season, so that thing's fogging up. You know, you're breathing in it.
But also what it does is it makes the tasks so much harder because the masks, they don't have a proper seal and their eyes will be fogging up.
Yeah,
They won't be able to
you said
see.
it.
They won't be able to breathe.
And I have not seen this video beyond the first one I did, so if you missed that, check out the first one. But it happens. You know, it happens if it's hot and you have sunglasses on there tight to your face, they fog up. This is even worse if you don't have a good seal. None of them ever seal right that I had in training at a minimum because they reuse a lot. But these guys are going to be totally wiped. You're going to see people, if they have to do a team exercise, start fighting. If you look at the Ranger training one I did, the guys are really getting after each other when they're totally spent. They're carrying something that involves teamwork. Let's see.
So tired. They're worn out. It's tough. We're yelling at them. They can't hear.
To have a gas mask on and do any task feels like someone's covering up your mouth and your nose with tape. It feels like somebody's constricting you. It's hard to breathe, especially when your heart rate's elevated and you're really trying to suck in some deep breaths and you just can't. You can't at all. So it's almost a feeling of suffocation.
Exactly. You do feel like you're suffocating. Now, when you put the mask on, you go to the gas chamber. Some people just don't like that thing on their face. And then when you gas chamber, you're PTing like these guys are doing, exerting themselves. Besides the fogging up, it's just you can't breathe as good. And it's not that you're not going to breathe, but some people just get freaked out by that. It's like the water training. I like this kind of training. We did it, like I say, mop gear, and it was a pain in the ass.
When you get really towards the end of it, and you're just trying to suck in as much oxygen as you can, but it won't let you.
Guys, like me to do the rest of the series, let me know in the comments. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. For my subscribers, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching.